And we are back, and as promised, now we have Vince Redmond, who is our Card Family Services Director, and he is going to talk to us a little bit about desensitization over the holidays, because we've got Halloween coming up, and then right after that, it seems like Thanksgiving, and things just one after the other, right, Shannon?
And Nancy and I were talking about this earlier, that a lot of times when we talk about it is the week before Halloween,
Right.
and sometimes some of the things that help to reduce the stress are things that you start now.
Right.
So we thought, well, let's just, there was a nip in the air last night here in Los Angeles.
Yes, there was.
And
It
you
felt
know,
like
I've already
fall.
been talking about the holidays because
I
I'm
know.
all rev for it anyway. But anyway, for those of you who don't know Vince is a licensed marriage and family therapist. Vince is also, oh my gosh, he's just one of the most wonderful people, and his background just makes him that much more wonderful. A behavioral therapist for many, many years. In fact, he's featured, you guys, in the movie Recovered, which I just got to watch parts of it again recently, and it just makes me smile so hard when I see how young you were, Vince. It makes my face hurt. And I mean, you know, come on. Vince is a very handsome man, but then you see him when you were just a boy and doing therapy.
25, I think, yeah.
Man, it's just amazing to see how you have grown and how you have worked in this field for so long, adding value to so many families. But so what I love about, one of the many things I love about Vince is that he sees it from both sides. He can help families as a licensed marriage family therapist, but he also knows firsthand what it's like when you're in the middle of a really intensive behavioral intervention and how stressful that can be. So welcome back, Vince.
Thank you, thank you.
We love you. And, you know, it's a rough, you know, I know some parents who start to stress now, going, oh, it's just a matter of time.
Well, Halloween is my least favorite holiday because of the fact of the candy and the sensory overload. And
and for some people it's the fires. For some people it's the, because like there's flames everywhere, what, fake or real. For some people it's the scary costumes. I've had my son run out of a Halloween store when we were getting, you know, some little innocuous thing because he saw something, and run out into a parking lot because he was so terrified. So talk to us, Vince, help us. What can we be working on now?
And I think, and you bring up a good point, because I think sometimes what we do is our anxiety then kind of takes over, and we avoid and we delay and we avoid and we delay.
Amen.
And before we know it, it's October 29th, and it's 2 days before, you know, Halloween, and we're like, oh my goodness, what do I do? You know, and now I got to get costume. Do I do this? And we got to do this, and I can't do this, and he's not ready for this. And so I think sometimes we by putting it off, because I know it's only early September, but as you ladies are saying, it's here, right? You go to the stores and candy's out and decorations already there. It's time now to start prepping for it. It's time now where we have, you know, 6 to 8 weeks to really start preparing our kids, we're preparing our homes, preparing our schedules to, you know, to accept Halloween, to do Halloween the way we're going to do it. It might not be the traditional way, but how we're going to do it as a family, how we're going to do it as a part of the community, or maybe not a part of the community, and that's okay. How are we going to celebrate that individually as our family dynamic is? But to do that, we need to start that now. We need to start laying that out by what are some of the things that are problematic. Is it transitions? Is it candy? Is it, you know, the costumes, right? And we can start coming up with resolutions. We can start coming up with solutions on what to do so that the kids have a good time. The kids actually have a memorable and positive event. But I think the idea of, okay, October is 3 weeks away, is that 3 weeks is going to creep up on us like 3 hours. And before you know it, it's going to be the middle of October before we start working on that. And that might not be enough time. That might not be enough time to do everything that we might need to do, because we already have very busy schedules and very busy lives.
So go ahead, and your first suggestion is then to have your own timetable, which may be early by other people's standards, but for you may work.
Right. And create your own holiday. It could be on Halloween, we'll use Halloween as our example, but maybe it's not on Halloween. Maybe it's on the day before. Maybe it's something that we do with our own church or our own school or our own neighbors or just maybe our own family. Let's create what's going to be the best for your family. We can do things to make the actual Halloween date successful for all the kids, but maybe it's something that might be too overwhelming, too much, too many people, too many things, and we need to isolate it and keep it smaller. We can do that. We can set up an event or a day that celebrates Halloween, but maybe it's not on Halloween.
Yeah.
We can do that. But either way, it's creating those memories, creating those experiences for the family and for the kids.
I'm really trying to be Johnny on it this year.
Right.
So that I don't get all the stress
Have
of
you
the
decided
holidays.
your costume for Jen
I
already?
I already ordered it and it came in the mail.
Really? What is it?
I can't say because it's like privileged information.
Oh, it is? Okay.
But it's a very specific costume that I couldn't have gotten in a store.
Right.
And no, it's already been ordered and it already came because it was something you had to order with like 20 days notice.
Okay.
And so I already ordered it.
You're already on it, Shannon.
But now
Good for
I don't
you.
have my costume, so we have
I
to
know,
talk
we don't
more
have
about
our
that. We haven't
costumes.
figured that out.
No, we
But I
haven't.
will say this, that when he was little, my thing, because I love to craft, it's therapy for me. Every other year I would make a costume then the next year I would buy one because I didn't have time every year to do it. But the making it did something because then he would see it. And I would finish like one piece of it and put that on him, and then he would, there was one year where when he was little, like I don't even think he was 3, and I made him a little clown costume, and like a jester clown. And so I would make the one little shoe cover and I would put that on and he would wear that around all day. And what I didn't realize that what I was doing was desensitizing him to it.
Right.
And then I made the little hat thing that had to be tied on. And the first time he put it on, I said, let me just see. And I put it on and it was on for 3 seconds and then it was on the floor, right? But then, then I put it on him again and he wore it for
longer.
5 minutes. And then, by the time we got to an event before Halloween and he wore it for like 2 hours. Now on Halloween night, it didn't even last 3 seconds. But guess
Exactly.
what? I didn't care.
Right.
Because I'd already taken all the pictures before
Right,
Halloween.
right.
I'd taken him to Sears to get the pictures, right? It didn't matter what he wore on Halloween. I had the pictures, right? So, but I didn't realize how much I had desensitized him to it. And I didn't have to actually make the costume to do that, right? But you could get it early and put one piece on. And I also, I don't know about you guys, but in the month of October, there's like event.
Right,
You don't have
carnivals
to go
and-
to all of them.
No.
But as Vince is saying, pick one.
Right.
Pick one and go to that and
Right.
see
We
how
have a
it
big
goes.
carnival coming up this
Yeah.
weekend that we've already picked to go to.
That's a Halloween thing with a
It's-
costume?
No, it's a celebration of the beginning of a town that we used to live in.
There
So,
you go.
Yeah, they have a parade, then they have a carnival at night. So this is a big yearly event too. There's lots of big things that come up
Yes.
this time of year for us.
And so, you pick the events that you want to go to, like Vince is saying, and make it your own. I know we all get this expectation around the holidays that we're all chasing that perfect holiday, that Norman Rockwell painting. And I am here to say that in that painting where they're putting the turkey down, that 30 seconds later the dog came in and crashed the table and the turkey ended up on the floor, right? I don't think anybody has had. Well, I'm sorry, Vince, what'd you say?
It's just the picture, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like you said, you get the picture. The rest of it's just life.
Yes, exactly.
I can't think of a Halloween where my kids that costume wasn't destroyed or taken off
Right.
within, the first 5 minutes of the day. But like you said, you get those memories, you get those pictures, you get them, wearing it, for a good amount of time. They're having a good time. They're smiling. They're enjoying themselves. That's the beauty of the holiday, is that they enjoy themselves.
Exactly. So I love, dealing with our stress, but if we have a kiddo who has a particular fear, like there's something that they're really skittish about, or they just can't even wear a costume. If there's something that we want to systematically desensitize, what do you recommend? Do they go to the team with that, Vince?
Well, I think your example was a perfect example of slowly working on a costume or wearing a part of a costume that a child might not want to for longer periods of time, right? You start with 30 seconds and then a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and so forth, right? This gives us plenty of time, going back to what we were talking earlier. Right now, we have plenty of time to start working on that. And I think that desensitizing, which is different per child, is important to take note of now. You're not going to desensitize your child in 2 hours before you go get ready, right? It's not enough time. So this is the time where we start having them wear the costume or wear that part of the costume that might be uncomfortable for them. Maybe they don't like things on their head. Maybe they don't like things on their hands. But we start having them wear it for a certain amount of time, and then we give them a reward. Then we increase the time, give them a reward. And before you know it, when we get closer to Christmas, they're wearing it without even worrying about it because they're already getting rewarded. They're having a good time. They're out. There's a lot of things that are distracting them, and that sensitivity that they might have had with their hands or their head or what have you is already worn off. So they're able to tolerate and wear those pieces of clothing without incident. But I think there is a misnomer that we can sensitize them in a quick amount of time, and that's unfortunately not true. So again, going back to why it's important to start in September to prepare for the end of October, part of that could be because you want to desensitize them to a specific piece of clothing.
And also in terms of expectations about candy, if our children can't have candy, we can talk to them about alternatives that they can have in terms of rewards, right?
I mean, there's certain candies they can and cannot. There's certain treats they can and cannot. There's certain prizes and activities that they can and cannot, right? So we use the combination. It's not just candy, right? As we all know, but it can be things that they like to eat, things that they like to do, things that they, a sticker, a stamp, a glitter, a pencil, there's different things that they might enjoy gathering and getting. I've even seen some where it was a token system and they were able to get certain tokens, and when they came home, depending on how many tokens they had, they were able to buy something. Right. And again, it was something that they could eat or they could do or they could, obviously control in their home. So, what the family did is they went to their local neighbors and gave them a token. And each token had a different character on it. Right. So it was something pleasurable. And so when they went, they would give them a token, say, hey, you get the special, Woody token from Toy Story. And then they would get one from Bugs Life, and they would get one from different movies and what have you. So when they came home, they created their own system so that the child would get the reinforcements. They would get to eat, treats and things that were within their diet restrictions so that they felt included, like with their siblings and the other kids. It was wonderful.
And I love that. You could go around and give the tokens to the neighbors and say, my kid is going to come, and then you get to have that conversation. We did something slightly different, that we had the Lego fairy. And then I have friends who've had the Barbie fairy, right? So, my son didn't know what candy was. I think it's harder to do this after your child, but if you have a really little child and you can't do the candy right from the jump, and we couldn't, he thought it was fascinating. To him, it was colored lumps of paper.
Right.
Right? And what we started with him when he was 3 and just beginning to understand was, you get as much of that as you want, and then you leave that on the table, and the Lego fairy comes and leaves you a Lego. And back in the day, for the first time, it was a Duplo. And for my friend, the Barbie fairy comes and leaves a Barbie. And we did that for years. And he was always so excited to get the candy and put it on the table. But if you have a kid who already wants and knows what candy is, going around to the neighbors, let's face it, I mean, how many houses can you do?
Right.
Like, if you do 14, you're a miracle worker, right? That's like way more than you need to do. But if you had 14 tokens and went to the families and said, here, give this to my kid, then you could avoid the candy thing altogether.
Right.
And that wouldn't be a bad thing, to go to those neighbors' doors and say, my kid is going to be here, and I'm going to ask you to give them, and just keep that separate from my kid.
Right.
What a great way to connect with your neighbors. Good idea.
It is a great way to, and you can do it without a whole lot of disclosure either. You could just say my child has severe diet restrictions, and
Yeah.
but we want him to experience this great event with all his peers. So could you just give him this one, and I'll be with him. So when you see me, we'll give a thumbs up, and they'll know. And then again, the child has no idea what's going on. They know they get something special, something that they would like, something that interests them, and they get a different one. So they're excited, and that's the moment, that's the joy, that's the purity right there. Is they're excited to get something. It doesn't matter what it is. They're just excited to get something. They want to continue with the peers. They want to continue to interact just like everybody else. How we turn that in at the end, what they get at the end, then obviously that's individualized and specialized for every family. But that's the event. And then, like you said, it's a great opportunity to get to know some neighbors and maybe get them, to reach out to you as well.
And if you go to a neighbor's house and say, so my child has dietary restrictions, and I was wondering if I could ask you, if you're going to give Halloween candy out, could you just have this? And when my child will be wearing this, can you give this? And if somebody is a butthead about it, then this is not the neighbor's house to go to.
Right.
Right? Like, it's just like, oh, well, you and I were never going to be friends anyway.
Right.
And then you just cut a wide berth around their house and be like, hey, great talking with you. Because anybody who would be like, they're having to go buy candy to give away. And anybody who wouldn't want to participate with you and go like, oh, you're giving me something to give your child? Hey, come on in and have a cup of coffee.
Right.
Anybody who isn't that way, you really don't need to waste time on.
Right.
All right.
It's probably pretty rare, but you're right. If there is someone that's just a knucklehead, then you say thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll never be back here again. Right?
Okay.
Vince, you're amazing.
Yeah, these are some great tips.
Maybe in October we'll talk about what to do when you're going to dinner at somebody's house and they're going to comment on everything that your child eats.
Right.
Maybe that's what we need to take up next month.
Okay.
Sounds good.
We can do it early.
Thank you, Vince.
All right,
And
thanks,
Vince, for people, if they're card clients that are getting card services, where can they get a hold of you if they're interested in more marriage and family counseling?
Yeah, anyone can actually reach me at my email address, v.redmond, REDMOND, at centerforautism.com.
And he's a wonderful, wonderful resource.
Right.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Vince.
Thanks, ladies. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.